I, like many people who make art, always liked it. My parents encouraged it because it was the only thing that I would pay attention to.
Mm.
And in high school, or no, I guess I went to a magnet middle school. And then it came to be high school time, and there was a really, really, really awesome arts magnet school. Well, it was a magnet school for many things, but they had a really great visual arts program. So my friends and I
Where were
applied.
you growing up?
Oh, in Maryland. So this was in Towson, and it was called Carver, and it's still just an absolutely fantastic school. I still stay in touch with my high school teachers because they are that wonderful.
Yeah.
But so I guess that's a spoiler alert because I applied and my friends applied and I did not get in. I had to go to, my regular school, which was fine, but it really showed me how much I cared. Sometimes when you don't get what you want, like you find out if it matters to you or not, and it really did. So I really worked the next 2 years to build up a portfolio, and I got in for 11th and 12th grade, and it was incredible. And then I went to Micah, also in Baltimore, for to study painting, and then Indiana University for painting and teaching. And I went in to be a an art professor, moved out to Oregon. And there was a lot of things I really loved about it, and it was great, but I struggled so much with some of the boundaries of teaching, and maybe it was specific to this school or this region, and maybe it wasn't. But I really struggled with having to grade students on their creative practice, and I don't know, it ended up taking an exorbitant amount of time because that part of it wasn't a very good fit for me. So I found this, I was really kind of at my wits' end, and I was making these paintings that I wasn't enjoying. And I felt like, I had to be making these paintings so that I could get shows, so that I could apply for another teaching position in a place that I wanted to be a little bit more. And I just got so burnt out on it. And eventually this random studio came up in the little downtown of our town, and it was $230 a month or something. So I got it, and I placed some ground rules where I was only going to do what I loved and paint what I love or draw what I love. Painting what I love turned out to be drawing. I wasn't going to worry about the shows. No one was allowed in, and I could only work for that day. I couldn't think about what it was going to be in the end. I just had to work moment to moment about like what I was into right then. And I really loved cars and motorcycles. I loved Renaissance paintings. I loved these dynamic structures of them, as you can probably gather. And yeah, and I thought back to my undergrad and just this really fabulous drawing instructor that I had who was so rigorous, and she really taught us to use it as a tool. And I went in there and I bought like a giant roll of paper and I put it up and I started making these things. And they were, my paintings at that time were getting smaller and smaller. And these drawings were just getting bigger and bigger. And, like before you knew it, I like resigned from my teaching position. My husband and I did a whiteboard. We're like, where in the country is the best fit for us? We moved to Austin. I was like all in making these crazy, crazy paint drawings. And I will say that like I also taught the best class ever that I had taught. We did like an advanced drawing course, and like every single one of us, we were just like, I was like, what do you love? What do you love? What do you love? How are we going to translate this? And everybody went a different direction, and it was just such great energy. So yeah, I love teaching advanced drawing. And yeah, that's all she wrote. Like I think sometimes when you make a big jump, and you're like, let it be heart led, good things come. And I just wanted to make sure that I was making the same that I would have been making teaching, and that was my bar. And yeah, as long as I continue doing that, is what I get to do. I am kind of a landscape hunter, so I've moved all over the US and different parts of the world, kind of just finding something in the landscape that kind of speaks to me, and then I get in there and it adds to the evolution of my work. And so since I've been here in Amsterdam, like there's been mothering and just like atmospheric haze, a lot of that. And it's led to a big softening and kind of letting go in my work. And yeah, I have this big piece, this big commission in the works right now. And I think it's a great example of how a big piece like this can be like close and far or controlled and not at the same time. So yeah, when I'm thinking about starting these things, I'm just not the type of artist that just comes up with something grand in their imagination and then just goes with it. I mean, I think of like James Jean is like somebody who's so creative and his sketchbooks are so cool. And I feel like he just like invents these really cool things. And as much as I love it, like I just am somebody who needs to respond to something. So typically I'll start off with just kind of falling in love with like a with an old painting is
Of your
usually how
own
it
or
starts.
like,
No,
yeah.
no, of just that I find. I mean, there's so
Oh,
many like this one isn't from this particular painting, but like I've had a lot of studios and I've cleared them out, and it's very rare that a piece stays with me all of these years, but I've had this one on my wall for like 20 years.
it looks like it's been printed on papyrus or something. Torn up.
Yeah, it's
That's
been through it.
wonderful. Yeah, show it to us.
But
Oh,
yeah, and it's like so stiff and rigid, and it kind of has that. It's not Piero del Francesco, but it kind of has that like
yeah.
fresco feel. And I love this like unspoken relationships
Mhm.
through proximity. I'm a really big fan of compositional breakdowns and gestalt. Um, and I like this idea that you can tell that things are related if they look alike and they can be in really different parts of the picture. But the closer they are, as long as they're not touching, there's like so much tension from the space between things. And I love this one because it has, touching, but then also like where the eyes are looking
Yeah.
does a similar thing. And I've always been really interested in translating that so that it's not like using figurative elements, but then translating them into plants and landscapes.
Interesting. So do you think of these plants as figures as well?
Kind of. I think of them like figures, but less literally. I definitely think of them as like stand-ins for people in a way, and they're more like it's more relational, I think. I used to do these car and motorcycle paintings, and I definitely thought of those as more stand-ins for people. And I love the theater of it, and just the theater of like working on like a square, essentially. I mean, it feels so much like a screen, or like I love watching movies and just seeing that cinematic quality go by. And I do think a lot about that. How I'm orchestrating things here. So with the car and motorcycle ones, I definitely thought that, but they've kind of evolved and gotten more subtle. And now they kind of feel like an emotional reckoning. Like, what is the feeling of having something come present, working through it for a long time, and then resolving it in some way? And even in like physically in my work, I do that where I will basically make a giant mess for myself on the page of like a lot of information. And then my job is to like lovingly work through it, and sometimes kind of aggressively working through it and making some hard calls, and ultimately like pulling the whole thing together into something beautiful, like alchemizing it into something beautiful out of this horrendous chaos that's going on during the process in the drawing. And usually like I'm working through stuff too, so it's like all coming together. Yeah, and for this one, I don't know, I found this weird book at a residency that I did. They had a little library, and I bought this book, and it was I don't even remember the name of the guy. Yeah, I, I don't remember the name of the guy, but he did these kind of posters of these like sultry women, and there's like all this Art Deco stuff going on, but there's something really cool about them. And there's this one page in this book of his.
Oh,
I don't know what it is. It's like he's really great with painting women and also really great at painting flowers. And there was something about this division right here that I thought was so cool. And, her face holds you so well. And even though there's another face here, it's really almost like secondary or even tertiary, that you're just not looking at her as much. She's kind of like just holding this whole figure. And I thought it was really nice. And this particular composition is a little tricky because these are two different panels and they're extremely long.
yeah.
So the actual drawing is like here to here, and this is going to be the edge of the frame. So there's like an inch and a half on each side, and like the darker parts are beyond it. So one thing that tends to be really tricky with when you're doing stuff like that is there's like this thing called a waterfall effect. And we read books, at least in English speakers read books from top left over to bottom right. We're kind of going this way and we're out. And so we read pictures that way too. We typically like we'll walk around a gallery that way where we enter the piece from this side and
Yeah.
then we'll look at it. And if there's not something to pull you back in, your eye will just fall out of the bottom right and you'll move on to the next piece. And especially with these long pieces, because you just have such a short amount of space to move over, but so far to drop.
Right.
So I'm thinking about that, but then I'm also thinking about this as a diptych and like, how can these two pieces kind of hold each other and relate, but also kind of move your eye all around? So I start these really big ones with this like the chalk line, the blue
Yeah.
chalk lines for
Oh, wow.
contractors.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of just like figure out how I want to basically lay this out and I'll snap a few lines. And so I have this one coming down here. And so I will typically like map stuff out so it kind of hits the lines. Not exactly, like I don't want it to feel harsh, but like it kind of matches up to this drawing or
Yeah.
this painting. And there's going to be something that goes on in here and over there that like adheres to it a little bit more. But often I like to build up from the bottom up. So that's kind of where I am with it.
Wow. Oh, that's so fascinating to hear.
I'm just in a really good place if you want to see a little demo um, of what it looks like to move stuff around or take stuff out in a drawing.
Yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where I started with this one tends to look a little bit darker and a little bit more accurate, I would say.
Mhm.
Uh, Pretty much with everything, when we're kind of coming in fresh, we're a little bit more careful. And as we warm up, we start to get that looser hand.
Sure.
So I started off here and like, just really trying to accurately render things and also just wanting something on the page because if something's there, I can respond to it. But if nothing's there, you get in your head. You're like,
Hmm.
oh, am I going to do it wrong?
Yeah, yeah.
And yeah, and then these came in a little bit later and got a bit looser. And I actually really like how much looser they got. So now this part doesn't match anymore.
Yeah.
So my job is going to be to like stop this from being like a big dark chunk. And I just kind of break it up. And I think one of the other cool things about drawing is like you can lose something and still get it back. Whereas with painting, like I studied oil painting and you'd have those days or late evenings where you'd get really confident and then you'd wake up the next morning and you're like, oh my God, where did my painting go?
Yeah, I know that feeling.
It's the
This is
worst.
great. Everything is going so well right now. This is a good day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But on the other hand,
um
if you're too ambivalent, that shows too when there's like not
mhm,
enough risk happening. So you kind of need a
totally.
balance of both. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Like I always say, like if you're being safe the whole time, like the painting will or the drawing, like nothing will ever have the opportunity to be great because you never gave yourself the opportunity to lose it. And
Yeah.
if you can lose it, even if you do lose it, then you have nothing to lose and you can just do whatever. And that's where invention lives. And that's usually the stuff that you end up really falling in love with. And um, I mean, the times that I have thought about not doing this anymore are the times where I wasn't letting myself push too far.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So with this, like I just did this over here where this had kind of a dark halo over it. It just looks like it's not with the paper at all. And I like there to be a relationship there.
Yeah.
So if it's just like a little too accurate, that kind of gets lost. So I really like this one. This one I care less about, but it's this big part in here that I don't like.
Mm.
Um, so I'll usually just use like a bigger one if I'm taking some stuff out. But I like erasing the and I'm gonna get this too, because that's kind of gonna stand out a little bit.
Mhm.
But I like erasing in graphite because it almost like makes it wet again, which is kind of a cool thing. With painting, you have like these accurate drying times, and with drawing, you can always reactivate it a little bit. And then, you can come back in, and now that it's erased, you can still see where you are, but there'll be like little bits that I can kind of pull back in. And they just start to feel like they're connected a little bit more. I'm not going to do this for too long and hold
It's
up all
so,
your time.
no, I could just watch this all day.
Like
It's
Bob
like
Ross
visual.
situation.
No, it's like, yeah, it's like visual ASMR. I'm just like, this is amazing. This is so cool. And also it's making it really like clear to me why your work feels so much like a memory, because like you're
It
literally,
is.
yeah, exactly. You're literally taking something away, but leaving a trace of it and then
Mhm.
pulling on little threads of that trace to like highlight and define, but not so no, not sharply anymore. It's like it's the past. It's just, oh, it's incredible. What a like poetic, I mean, it's, yeah, it's completely that. And now I'm like, of course it feels like a memory. But it's so funny, even as an artist, like you'd think maybe I know like how to get under the hood or whatever. But when I look at your work, it's like it it brings up, it's just so evocative of a place and of like the sense memory of being in these ferns and in these bushes and brushes and sort of exploring and not knowing what you're going to find behind the next frond.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, and that, yeah, and I mean, that's the thing is like for me anyway, when any one thing starts to steal the show, it doesn't relate to anything else anymore. And that's when I have to kind of knock it down or take it out
Mhm.
and then put it back in because, like, when you step back, I want you to just like get a feeling, not be like, there's a fern, there's a fern, there's a fern. I mean, there's definitely like, um, I do enjoy accuracy. I like rendering. I think it's really fun. But I also like leaving it in the early stages and then um, kind of playing with it more in later stages, of the drawing. I have worked long enough that I can understand that, like I said, I do need to respond to stuff. So I'll just throw some things up in a general way. I don't want to erase too much and go too wild with it, but um, like these were something that was really nice that I've kind of lightened up a little bit. And like if I know that something needs to go up, like I'll take these and I mean, and I like went to the neighbor's house. This is not great, but they have a bunch of ferns outside, and
Perfect.
I reappropriated three of them.
Yeah.
And
It's just trimming, it'll grow back.
sorry, sorry, neighbors. It's like the distant neighbors, but I don't recommend this, people. But anyway, I traced it on this like vellum or something, and then I get like a positive and a negative version of it. So
Right.
I put this here. Like one of the things that I used to be so allergic to was blending. I just would not. I would never, ever, ever blend. But then we were
Random
talking
artist
about this
rules.
before.
Yeah.
It's like you really have to assess yourself and what are the self-imposed rules that you've designed to block yourself from
Yeah.
creatively expressing. And
Yeah.
that was mine. So anyway, I did this and then, just got some graphite powder and you put it on and that was like enough to really get myself started. This one came in here and I could just see relationships starting to happen. And once I have something down, something can come from that and something can come from that. And for me, that's just that works really well. So I just recommend for anyone like really listening to what you like and what you do well and let that be a part of your process. Like nobody's process is really perfect for anybody but them.